Welcome, everybody, friends, folks, foes, and fellow pirate mateys, to this week's latest edition of World Pirate Radio News. It's show segment number 334. I'm your host, as always, Robin Hood's Chief Communications Officer, Jaffe Ryder. WPRPN.com is the website you want to drop by, take a look at. Sign up is free. Be sure as well to check out the show description end of things. We have a Patreon presence along with a variety of merchandise, related merchandise. It's up for grabs, mostly in the form of coffee mugs and t-shirts. So we have a PayPal as well too. Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com is our PayPal email address. It's also how you can contact us and suggest show ideas, or if you have any guests that you like to bounce off of us. That's the way to do it. So digital love is always appreciated. Half of everything we manage to generate goes directly back to the grassroots. I mean, what else would you expect? Hashtag WWRHC, what would Robin Hood do? We're challenging the likes of Alex Jones, Tim Pool, Candace Owens, Jordan Peterson, all these other high-profile social media figures to incorporate something similar into the way that they operate. It's really critical to think about, obviously, giving back to the grassroots, something you don't hear enough about, unfortunately, within the social media sphere. I'm not sure why that is. Tragic oversight, though, I would argue. So, liking, commenting, sharing, remembering to hit subscription notification buttons. Really good stuff, as always. Of course, helps to give our algorithm ratings a bit of a boost. And passing word on to friends, family, and coworkers. Really essential as well, and much appreciated. So, without any further ado, let's welcome to the show Roger Hansen, the one and only Roger Hansen, who we've got on board here, helping out in the co-host capacity this week. Not too many other folks, it seems like, available at this particular point in time. Everyone, of course, with their busy schedules and whatnot. Robert Morningstar may be dropping in after the commercial break, so that's something to take note of. Mostly, we would like to focus, not the entire show, but to offer some of our energy that we have this week, the time allotted here, to discussing this ostrich situation, the potential looming, the threat of this cull or killing of 400 healthy ostriches out of Edgewood, British Columbia, not too far from what I understand from Vernon, BC, if people can find that. I guess it is the southeast region of British Columbia. If only I knew you'd think it's a big province, obviously. Embarrassed to say it was actually my home province, but on the border of the Kootenays and the Okanagan, more or less, is what I'm willing to hazard a guess. So, but yeah, Vernon, BC. Edgewood in particular. Check it out. So, uh, first they came for the truckers, then it was the Christian pastors. No problem with the Muslims doing their thing, of course. Turn a blind eye to that, as you can imagine, the way the liberals roll, the big red political machine out of Ottawa. And now it's the healthy ostriches because why? Their eggs provide powerful immunity, antigens, I guess is what they contain. They were ill for some time, or at least there was a couple who, the way the story goes, were either sick, and I'm not sure if they died or not, but they did manage to establish that the all too critical herd immunity, which the powers that be, big pharma and the like, don't really want us to think about or talk about when it comes to these issues. That or vitamin D, of course, and going outside, not locking yourself up inside. Sense of learned sense of helplessness. Uh, the social engineers, are aiming, doing all they can to have people essentially, uh, bring on board, incorporate into their influence, their psyche, the way that they run their lives. Complete nonsense, of course. But then again, hey, you go outside, try to soak up all the quality vitamin D that you can, and you're immediately hit by chemtrails. So, yeah, so goes the war on humanity and the ostriches with these powerful antigens. Uh, Now, we did have Roger, then we didn't have Roger, and it looks like no, he's back here on board, and we got Naroki too. So, gentlemen, let's hear from you. All it's just really a matter of hitting that unmute button there, and everything should be good. Out of Edmonton,
Hello.
Naroki 5. Yeah. Hey.
Okay, somebody want to bring me up to speed on what the topic is tonight?
Yeah, the if you could, all things ostriches out of Edgewood. That's right.
Oh, the whole I've been that's been sort of in the background. I really haven't been paying much attention to it. I know that that there's this farm out in BC where they want to kill all the ostriches.
Edgewood,
I haven't
BC.
been following that.
Yeah. Well,
Edgewood, BC. Yeah, I haven't really been following it very closely though. So,
so but you're here rather to discuss what? What's on your mind?
oh, digital IDs is what's on my mind right
Well, yeah,
now.
we were going to feature that next week, but go ahead. Let's hear, you know,
All right. Well,
a little bit.
I ended up having a discussion with Rierson about this last night when I was at work. Um, Carney is not going to do anything in Canada, at least not until after the Alberta referendum, because if he tries bringing this in while the referendum is still up in the air, Alberta will absolutely leave for sure. So it's not going to happen here for at least, it's probably like 18 to 24 months out at the furthest. Here's the thing, right? And I've had people ask me this over the years, like, what's my line in the sand for like me, like basically walking out of the system, and the digital ID would be it. So
What are you going to
I
do?
talked to Rearson.
Where are you going to go?
Well, that's the thing, right? I talked to Rearson about this, and gonna start putting feelers out to. I mean, I'm actually, which is kind of ironic because when you called me, I was like listening to a prepping video. Um, as it was as when you called me the first time around. Uh, Prepping is getting in touch with local preppers is probably like at or near the top of the list. Restocking my food supply is also going to be up at the top of the list. Developing an exit strategy. That exit strategy, though, is going to be dependent upon what happens with the immediate area. Like I say, I live in Alberta. If Alberta separates, then Carney won't be able to do shit here, right? If Alberta votes to stay, though, and Carney brings in the digital ID, and he will, then I have to have an exit strategy. And that exit strategy, at this point, I'm leaning towards going down to the US, which means I'm going to have to start cultivating contacts down in the US to get myself either some type of a work permit or some type of a work arrangement so
Yeah.
that, can
Or
get
or
myself off the grid.
or run the risk of having ice all over you.
Yeah,
Completely on your back.
I would rather do it legally,
Yeah.
and not have to deal with ice.
Yeah.
That's me, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I have a very,
Well, sure. But that's
like,
just
I
it would
mean,
it would be foolish to do for anyone to do otherwise. Clearly, but another
yeah,
thing too about people say going off the grid and becoming more self-sufficient, as it were, homesteading or what have you. It's just we'll all just be replaced anyways, whether by foreign immigrants, just brought in under these very loose liberal, and I say that in a with a small, like you say, both, I guess, liberal uppercase and lower, way of philosophy and approach. Just open doors, no checks and balances, right? No
yeah,
accountability. Will this
yeah.
be
Well,
replaced or robotics, AI and robotics?
yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? If we really hit a shit hits the if it turns into a shit hits the fan scenario, most of those immigrants will be dead in the first like 30 to 60 days. Like most of them don't have pretty particularly good survival skills.
Well, they already outnumber
Um,
outnumber the pre-existing established population
well,
pretty much. Be
in
replaced
some
anyway, don't they?
in in some areas they do. Not where I live, they don't.
It's
Um,
insane, man.
eh,
It's just getting worse by the
but
day.
yeah. And this is the thing, right? So I talked to Rearson yesterday, and maybe not immediately because I still got a lot of mess to clean up with the whole from my old employer. But once I'm clear of that, then I'm probably going to be meeting up with Rearson, and we're gonna be working some of our U.S. contacts, and we're gonna develop an exit. One strategy is to either go off grid here in Canada, and trust me, there's lots of real estate in Canada to go off grid on.
Hmm.
But I think probably the most feasible of the two solutions is to legally get down to the states. Although that's probably just buying time because they're going to try and push this in the U.S. as well. Yeah. So I mean, they're gonna try and push something like this in the U.S. eventually as well. It's not gonna go over particularly well in the United. I already know it's not gonna go over particularly well in the U.S. But I mean, yeah, they are gonna try doing this in the U.S. at some point. Britain was just Britain though is, and they. I'm gonna be talking about this on 462. They arrested a 17-year-old independent journalist in Britain
Yeah, what do
two
they
days
call
ago.
him? Some up and rising social media star,
Yeah, yeah.
guys. The next Charlie Kirk wannabe, or what have you. What's his name? Some young
I
fellow,
can't remember right off the top of my head.
right?
I know that they
Now,
did arrest him.
what was the context?
Again, I haven't looked.
Yeah.
I haven't researched it. I do know that it's happened because it's like I've seen it on the quartering. I've seen it on Rebel News.
Uh huh.
I
Yeah.
think I think a lot of the independent media has already started covering it.
Uh huh.
I haven't looked into it. I will be looking
Yeah.
into it before the next show.
Well, and the ostrich story. I'm not sure how much time you've got here. Often you've got to, kind of you're in and you're out. But this business of the culling and this whether they're going to because this potentially could end up in the Supreme Court. I hope it does, frankly, if that's what it takes. That there was a false report of it having already just suddenly occurred. This is the news that we got while Robert Morningstar was live streaming his show last night. So, and it kind
Mhm.
of caught me a little bit off guard, and I was, quite shocked and surprised to hear it. But at the same time, it was, to realize in the end that it was a false alarm didn't surprise me either, because it didn't really seem to make much sense. That's just the timeline, the context of things, and how because they had been granted that stay through the lawyers. And also, you might be interested in this, Naroki, given your heritage, perhaps, but the local, this is, you might want to look into this, the regional Indian band, the native uh, people of the region have come out in support now and taken the farm and the land under their domain, essentially, is what it's been ceded over, I guess, like
Yeah,
temporarily, legally, and that's a big deal, apparently. So
yeah, that does change the dynamic.
you didn't hear about that,
Because
did
now
you?
there would be an additional layer of bureaucracy that you would have to go through to get at the ostriches now, right?
Hopefully.
Um, well, based upon what I'm seeing, I'd say I don't. I believe it was some sort of concern about bird flu or some biological contaminant.
Yeah, just a
But
total bullshit story. Do you know what this is really all about at the core, at the heart of things?
go ahead. I'm like I
Oh
say, I
my
haven't been
God,
following the
you don't know
story.
it. You don't know what's going on. They're not. They're pets, basically. They're not being raised for meat consumption or food, and that's what you got. The Canadian inspector, like a food agency, in there. It's a totally being mismanaged and mishandled right from the
Oh,
get
you
go. The whole
mean
thing just stinks to the high heavens. But it's their eggs. Their eggs contain a powerful antigen, I guess is the technical term. You might want to look that up. But like this antibody that is it's like a super antigen providing super immunity power. And that's why I'm not sure if maybe Roger wants to.
so yeah, of course. You always follow the money.
Well,
Always follow the money.
yes, that's exactly what this is really all about. And the fact that, you know, it's just incredible how extreme and how radical, how authoritarian the government is in this instance. And I wonder what question, though, that some people have raised is, would the conservatives have handled it any differently, or would they be as ridiculous
Well,
intrusive as well?
well, here's the issue. What's happened in this is not the same political and cultural dynamic that existed 25 years ago,
No.
right?
God,
Like
good God, no.
the left now
It's when I
is
left
the
Canada.
totally but yeah, the left now. I'm not just talking about Canada, but Canada and the U.S.
Yep.
The left now is the tight, controlled, rigid, humorless, cannot mind their own fucking business group, and the right now is consists of these disparate, loosely tied groups. You know that yeah, so it's like the poles have reversed. Like it used to be, like for instance, when they had that protest in Seattle in 1999, right? Like
Uh-huh.
the left was a bunch of loosely affiliated groups, and the right was like this like tightly controlled, rigid, humorless bunch of people. And now like
Oh, Jesus. Push the wrong buttons, and that's what happens. So stand by here.
like
Hang on a
they,
second. Just it's hang.
they
I'm not sure
test
if you guys can hear that or not. I pushed the wrong button, and there's this. Suddenly, the audio wants to kick off. Take off on its own accord. So, um, can you hear me?
Oh, I
Yeah,
I
I'm
never
here.
lost you, man.
Did
I
you hear
never
the
lost
music? Did you hear the intro coming in?
I
very
Or
heard just like a
briefly,
second.
bi- just like a
yeah.
second. Like
Oh, geez. It's got the
um
well. It's the control panels at the top here, and it's bloody. It's a real pain in the ass.
well,
So,
at least you didn't at least you didn't forget to unmute yourself, which is what happened with 461 at one point.
oh, with you,
When
yeah. Oh, yeah. It
yeah,
happens to all of us. Yeah.
461, I forgot to unmute myself and I went talking on for about 17
Right.
minutes
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
and
Oh,
then
tell me.
didn't notice it, and then it was like, and I did a oh yeah, the Neuroki live stream came back,
That's why
and
you
I
need
forgot to
people out. You need people in the peanut gallery. You
yeah.
need people out there saying it's like sounding boards. So speaking of which, at peanut gallery, we got Zane Ivy and Zap Zap unloading. Uh, Zap Zap here via YouTube. Kudos to you. It's great to see you reconnecting with us here. Oh, I think that might be. Is that Christian Laterre? So we see the Montauk Camp Hero book cover, of which I'm working actually on an audio book reading and rendition, just to the best of my abilities. Everyone helping Christian out wherever they can, so completely free of charge. But what Zane is saying here is that algorithm. Oh, yeah, that's a great play on words. Hasn't the Silex Okanagan Nation's appeal based on land claim issue allowed a stay of the Ostrich community genocide? Maybe that's what did it, by God. Maybe that's what did it. That maybe, I don't know. I don't know on what decision it was made, but I'll tell you what, that there is talk, yeah, of this going to the Supreme Court. And why shouldn't it? What else do these high powered, these overpaid, what else do they do for the balance of their lives, these people? How many Supreme Court judges do we have? Usually it's 9, because so you know maybe that's got something to do with Saturn,
Well,
actually. If called,
it's in Canada. It's one per province,
they sit
and
around on their asses and
yeah,
do
and
what all
one per
year?
province, and one for the two
Yeah, but
territories. So
what
it's
do
like
they
a
do? Is the question. What do they
Yeah.
do in that position? Like what is the an average day in the life of a Supreme Court judge actually look like? What are they busy with?
well. Usually, well, they're either my understanding is, and this is keep in mind, I haven't really followed the Supreme Court that closely. They're either ruling on or considering cases, and it's like most of the cases, like for instance, like it's extremely rare that a death sentence will get kicked up to the Supreme Court, for instance. Um,
Commuted.
yeah, unless it's got national
Wait a
security
minute.
implications.
Canada still has the death penalty? Are you kidding?
No. I'm talking about the U.S. Supreme Court. Yeah, Canada.
I'm talking about Canada.
Yeah, no, the Supreme. Yeah, I don't know what they do up here. I do know that the judges here get replaced a lot more frequently than they do down in the U.S.
Uh huh.
Um, also, this would just be me. What I would personally do if I was the prime minister, if I was the guy in charge, I would make it so that the provincial premiers, since there's one justice per province, that I would make it the purview of the local provincial premier to appoint the Supreme Court justice, and not that would not fall under the purview of the prime minister, which it currently does.
So run that by us again. You're saying the prime minister. That's kind of like the
Yeah,
way the system is in America, where the
yeah.
president appoints the
The
Supreme
prime
Court
minister
judges
appoints them every.
until they
Yeah,
die, essentially. Correct?
yeah, um,
Can they be
yeah,
removed? Can they be
yeah.
disrobed or removed?
They can be removed. It very rarely happens
It would have
though.
to be some major scandal, I
Yeah.
guess,
Well,
right?
there was that one leak that occurred a few years ago. I can't remember specifically what it was about. It one of I think it was Sodom one. I think one of the liberal one of the Biden, one of the left wing appointed judges of the Supreme Court down in the U.S. had documents that got leaked, and the nature, I can't remember the specific nature of the case,
Yeah.
but
Well,
it was more than likely one of the democratically
right.
appointed that had
Here's
one of the members of their staff
here,
that had done it, right?
here's one for you. The good way of getting disbarred or removed from that esteemed position. Uh, Ruling on something such as this regarding the culling of these ostriches, ruling that indeed, this is they've been trying to propagate now the super virulent strain of avian flu, like hardy har har har. Yeah, right. And they so quickly managed to establish natural herd immunity,
Well,
and they're all alive. But
birds.
just let me finish. That one way for them to get removed, and I'm not sure what the term is exactly, where they're taken down from the bench. Gotta love that term, the bench. All these legal kind of occulted, wink wink, nudge nudge catchphrases and terms, but to have them rule on that, yeah, they got to be called, they got to be taken out, and then find out that they're on the take, secretly on the side, on the take. It comes to light that they're in the back pocket of big pharma. They've been, that they've got these, significant number of stocks and investments in Pfizer, Moderna, or what have you. Like, that's one thing that never came out throughout the course of the whole scamdemic. Conflict of interest. Conflict of interest. How many times did we hear people conflict of interest? I was waiting, listening for it. It's like not even not from the Mockingbird media a single time, but even the alternative, the larger platforms and
Well, the,
mouthpieces. Actually, it's kind of disappointing.
well, yeah, Coast to Coast AM was talking about the revolving door
Uh
between
huh.
big farm and
Good.
government, and this
Good.
was back in the early 2000s. So this has been a long persist. They would go from the private sector to the public sector to the private
Oh
sector
hell
to the
yeah,
public
yeah
sector.
yeah.
Yeah, and
Private
they were
public
talking. They were talking about this
partnerships.
on Coast to Coast AM back when Art Bell was still running the show.
Sure.
So I mean, this is not something that's new. It just became a lot
That,
more. Well, I mean, I gotta point something out. Bird flu. If somebody was, and I wouldn't surprise me if somebody was doing this, if they managed to get a super like a like gets vector first right now currently with bird flu, like you have to be like literally swimming in birds to get bird flu. Like it's very difficult to vector it over from birds to humans.
oh, they're trying
But if
hard.
you
You can bet
Yeah,
with
but
the.
they get gain of function to do
There
that.
you
The
go.
the bird the
That's
bird
right.
flu the bird flu is like apparently like if you get it, it's like there's about a 90% fucking chance you're gonna die,
Uh
right?
huh.
Like it's nasty. Like it would make this
Hmm.
COVID look like romper room if
Guess who's in
somebody was
China
able.
now? By the way, speaking of a gain of function and the like, Doctor Evil, incarnate, Charles
Fauci.
Lieber.
Oh my god.
Have you looked into his history and his father's history? The apple doesn't fall too far from that tree.
I
Uh,
haven't looked into his history. I do know a
oh,
little bit about
jeez.
Lieber though, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's like,
They let him walk. They let him go. Like the Trump administration, the first Trump administration had him detained, and then the court system took him in, ankle bracelet, small fine, not even 1 day in jail. And for his role, it was a quick decision that was rendered, as it was, and this is the former head of the Harvard's biochemistry department. So, and
yeah,
people
that
talk about
that
trust the science. So what? Trust the science when it's coming from people like that? This guy, and he's working together with the Chinese communists. He's
yeah.
working
Also,
together with
you want to
Chinese
know who else
communists.
was
There's a total
tied in with.
spying.
You want to know who else was also tied in with Harvard biochemistry?
I'm sure a few people, but
Jeffrey Epstein.
right, yeah. Oh, he
Yeah.
was probably
Yep.
donating a lot too, right?
Yeah. Don't. Jeffrey Epstein was heavily
You,
involved with that
you,
particular
who
group as
who
well.
doesn't think that they actually knew each other on a first name basis. Or Fauci knew Lieber and probably Epstein, but I can guarantee you that he knew Lieber, and well, it's a small world, man. These people run in the same circles, you know.
Oh, they do. I mean, for instance, this like the left is making this big, huge trumpeting thing about tying Trump to Epstein, and it's like they're both super wealthy people that lived in New York. Of course, they fucking pardon the language. Of course, they
Yeah,
knew
well,
each
with the
other.
F bombs, you remember how many we got complimentary F bombs we have per show, right?
Yeah, of course they knew. Of course they knew each other. What I didn't know, and this is something that a lot that of course gets ignored by the mainstream media, particularly the guys on the left, is that the last time Trump took the plane from New York to Florida was a year before Epstein had even bought the island.
Yeah.
So,
No, Trump had very little to do with him after, like, there was a certain point in time where just things got to be a little too weird, and as immoral or amoral as Trump may be, whatever his sense of morality or ethics are, that it just, yeah, it got to the point, and then he actually he he was an FBI informant. He played ball with the FBI. He was the only one who agreed to talk to them. Like, that's it was like it's an open secret. It was an open secret
oh,
for years.
Trump also, and I don't know. You probably don't know these people because it's like it was a long, long time ago. There used to be these they were Trump's chief competition in New York back in the '80s, the Helmsleys,
Okay,
and
okay, yeah.
and was he was constantly like me and like warning people about not getting tied up financially with the Helmsleys.
Well, and didn't she die? I forget her first name. She reminded me though, and
Leona Helmsley.
Leona, and she like Cruella de Vil, 101 Dalmatians, one of those types, kind of like Kathy Hochul or Huckle or whatever the hell her name is. There,
Yeah.
the current governor is governor, I guess, of New York. Just just a nasty piece of work. So, but
And Harry Helmsley definitely indulged her.
what do you mean
Yeah.
indulged?
Well, because I actually read a whole book about the Helmsleys. Harry Helmsley was a bit of a sleazebag. They actually kind of sounds kind of strange. They actually did love each other, which is
Oh
bizarre.
yeah.
But Harry Helmsley, like he, they kind of played like good cop, bad cop, you know. So yeah, Leona Helmsley was known as the bitch, but I mean, like she was acting that way with Harry Helmsley's the direct approval, right? Um,
It was more of a
you know,
role that she was playing than
well, to a certain degree,
facade
yeah.
persona.
You know, um, she would be the bad cop, and
Right.
Harry Helmsley would at least appear to be the good
In
cop,
order to,
right?
like, that was their sort of their mo, working
Yeah,
together in that way to get what they wanted, basically, which was, they were realtors first and
yeah.
foremost. Is that
They were
right?
they were they were they were one of the chief rivals to Trump back in the
Yeah,
'80s.
and
Yeah,
with empires of that, like, they were like billionaires, correct?
yeah.
Yeah.
They weren't as
So
big as Trump, but they were up there. Yeah,
yeah. So, and you realize when you're at that level, you diversify. So Darwin, one of his bottom line, really, it's my one main takeaway from the Origin of Species book that he wrote. It's to diversify or die. If you, as a species, become too overly dependent on one particular feature or characteristic, you're in big trouble ultimately.
yeah,
So you
yeah. Well, yeah,
diversify or die. They say don't put all your eggs in one basket, right?
Well, Helmsley's were like, I mean, Trump was well, I mean, Trump did a lot of heavy borrowing, right? Borrowing and leveraging. What the Helmsleys would do, and this was relatively new back when they did it. Now a lot of people do it, but he would get, instead of trying to get like two or three super wealthy investors to buy into a property in New York, what he would do is basically do an early version of crowdfunding, right? And it enabled him to it gave him a lot more control too, because he had to deal, instead of
Well,
dealing with just two or three people, he had to deal with like 20 or 25.
you're talking
But when
about
they
sorry to jump in, but just to make clear, attracting speculative investors, partners,
Yeah,
business partners, speculative
yeah,
to
he was one of the early. He was using basically an early form of crowdfunding
right.
to buy his properties in New York, whereas opposed to Trump would like leverage and buy and wheel and deal, right? Like Harry Helmsley was more of, yeah, early crowdfunding and sales. That's how Helmsley would pay for his stuff, right?
Oh, I
And
see. Okay, right. Yeah.
it gave him certain advantages that Trump didn't
I thought you were
have.
talking about Trump, where you're saying that he would
No,
like leverage and borrow, which, yeah, I guess are the
yeah, no.
two.
Trump
Yeah,
was a leverage and borrow. The Helmsleys were more in the way, more like crowdfunding. And
yeah,
what brought the Helmsleys down is the fact that when they hit that recession back in '87, the crowdfunding money ran
right.
out,
Yeah,
or there wasn't nearly as available. And Helmsley went out, broke his own rules about, instead of like getting all the money he needed to buy properties from like 20 or 25 different people, he only brought in, on this one property, he only brought in six or seven. And he was using the same sort of sleazy business practices. And what ended up happening is that his usual shtick, when he brought all of these investors together when they had the concern, there were only like six of them as opposed to 20 of them,
hmm,
and none of them bought into his usual line of bullshit, and they all basically collectively walked out on him and basically phoned the police and informed on him to the FCC, or not the whichever agency is responsible for financial
I
law
see.
in the U.S.
Okay,
Yeah, and that's what brought down the Helmsleys.
okay.
And of
Well,
course,
uh
right,
huh.
Leona Helmsley was just so unpopular that the moment things went bad for the Helmsleys, like everybody basically came out
Hmm,
of the woodwork to stick a knife in them, right?
yeah,
As opposed to, say, when Trump did his thing and he hit bad times, there weren't. Of course, that wouldn't be the case now, but back when he was just a real estate guy in New York, people wouldn't come out of the woodwork to go run over and stick a knife in him because they knew, generally speaking, Trump was a straight shooter,
yeah.
right? Like
How
Trump.
uh huh. And to just to kind of bring around full circle, this would be, I guess, in some ways, well, like what we have happening today, or what we're looking at, the major players, uh, BlackRock, which we weren't really prepared to talk about too much. I'm not sure how this topic actually even came up. It's an interesting one, and then but it's a little bit of is it how I'm so how did yeah is how is this applicable to like this week's news cycle? Even though
Well, we
I mean what you're talking about, the history of it was New York, I guess, finance, real estate in the '80s, if that's what people are
well, I
drawn
mean,
to.
we were just following a thread, and that's just kind of where the thread
Oh,
took us
I
to this
see.
week.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Not that it really matters, because I'm gonna have to step out here and do a patrol and make a check call anyway, so I can let Roger dominate the
Yes,
conversation for you.
sure. Well, and
I
yeah, so
don't know
Red Pill
where I could
Nation
go with
Hangout.
that.
Don't forget.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Let me think. It's Tuesday,
You
right?
guys, you
Tuesday,
guys are on your
Wednesday,
own, man.
Thursday, Friday. Yeah, it'll probably fall. Believe it or not, it'll actually fall on a Sunday unless you're not available on Sunday.
Well, we're gonna do this because we'll get it here, squared away. And I thought actually, see, Roger's show was 10 in the morning for us here. Finally got it worked out. It's not noon, but 10. So, and then I think he made the comment that yours, didn't you, Roger? Didn't you say that his show, Red Pill Nation Hangout, he's live streaming after you wrap up, which is the way to do things, really. Isn't that the case?
Um,
Yes,
I
more or
believe
less.
so.
Okay, or it can go like then even like a day later, perhaps, where Yeah, we'll talk about that after, I suppose. But sure, I will be more or less available at some point, early, like around 10:30, 11. Yeah, around noon time here, which would be, geez, what would that be? Well, that's 11 o'clock in the East Coast. So what? Once again, 9 in Alberta, I guess. Isn't that right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
9:30. Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah.
there
It's
we
about
go.
9:30, give or take, when I do it. Yeah. Yep. So
Anyways,
anyway, you know what? I have to step out and
yep.
do a patrol here at the
Make your
check call.
rounds.
So yeah,
Thanks
I'm
for
gonna hang
dropping
up for
in.
a bit and might drop in again. But yeah, I'm done for now. So
Okay,
I'll
maybe
talk to you guys later.
see you in the second half. Tally ho. All right.
Yep.
Yeah, Roger.
Yeah.
Is there anything that jumped out at you, either with what the ground that we covered there, or the peanut gallery
Actually,
end of things comments that are coming our way, or the talking points that we shared here, via the chat? Ostriches being cold, of course, the trucker convoy, pastors being arrested in Canada, and you know that they froze all the bank accounts.
I
Castro.
didn't know that.
Well, well, not. They'll probably do the same with the ostrich. They arrested they enticed them. They said, "Oh yeah, go ahead and feed your birds. Not a problem. Go ahead and feed your birds." Then they arrested them. And that's the thing,
Oh
is like they've
wow.
got this crooked, this evil, like they're kind of like agricultural, food inspection cops, basically. Just disgusting how out of hand and state gangsterism
Yeah.
is what we're up against here. Things can get. And who knows what they're feeding them? Who knows what they're doing with the birds? God only knows. And that's, I would really not, you can't, it's just not acceptable. And the fact is, they not only vandalized, they completely took offline. Uh, there was CCTV, surveillance and security systems in place. They took them all down. They went up and cut the wires and disassembled the cameras and tore as much down as they could. Which, to me, that I don't know where it says that they're allowed to do these sort of things exactly. You know, you think when cops are out on the beat that these days the more popular thing to do, be and is to have a camera, that
Hmm.
that you have that you wear in your lapel. And one of the main reasons is that it offers you have more trust in what is unfolding, and everyone can see that, judges can see, the courts, the victims or alleged perpetrators, people being arrested, and the police as well. With they know that with that they're being filmed, that they really need, they're required to do everything by the book. Although, isn't it interesting to see the number of times where their cameras just kind of conveniently malfunction right at the
Yeah.
time where they're supposed to be working? Kind of like with the Princess Diana assassination, or 9/11, or you name it, like the Boston Marathon bombings, and who knows. Charlie Kirk, I don't know about that exactly. But speaking of which, you know, I think I know what happened now with this business with the Charlie Kirk killing. It was that lapel microphone, the clip-on that he had, and there was a guy who he was caught on film where under his shirt, under his short sleeved shirt, he reached and kind of lifted up on something. He was staring at Charlie and then lifted up on something. It was really odd, very peculiar, really strange. And from that, you could see from the clip-on mic, it does appear that there's a trajectory of something that goes up, and then Charlie's head uh, shoots up in upward fashion, and there's all this blood that pours out the side of his neck, which in some of the early videos that I saw, there was no blood whatsoever, interestingly, and I'm not sure why that was, if it was edited or maybe they thought that it was, you know, not for public consumption. But have you heard about what the coroner found, or for that matter, didn't find? The miracle bullet, Charlie Kirk's. They had the magic bullet, of course, with JFK. Now it's the miracle bullet
They
that
didn't find it.
uh it never penetrated the other side of his neck, I guess, or
Yeah.
something along those lines is what the official statement. So here we go again. Like it should, like most bullets would have and should have exited the through the trajectory, the other side, but it didn't. And it really, I mean, that's where my money is right now. And this, you can see the security guy. He's have you seen the video of this at all?
I've
He's
I've seen like 4 or 5 different things. I've seen photos where there's people trying to like talk about angles about how freaking this could have bounced off of that and popped over to here. And I mean, it's really getting out of hand with a lot of these videos. I can't tell you which one you're referring to be honest with you.
we don't
There's
pay
like 4 or 5,
right. We don't pay
you know.
taxes. Only the little people pay taxes. Leona
Right.
Leona Helmsley.
Yeah.
So yeah,
She
that's
reminds me of Tammy Baker.
I
You
get
remember Tammy Baker?
with her makeup.
Yeah. Like you know how she ended up eventually getting busted, don't you?
Tammy Faye.
No, Helmsley.
Too much
She
mascara.
no, she was
I mean,
bitching about having to pay freaking taxes on her house.
uh-huh.
And they investigated her, and that's how she eventually got busted.
We're not one of the little people.
You know,
Yeah.
she thought she could honestly get in trouble, or she could get away with starting a fight with the freaking the revenue service, man.
Yeah.
After doing all the shit she did.
The untouchables.
Mhm.
So
She didn't think she could be touched. She
right. Hey, well, there's a few people out there who that's they're definitely their way of looking at it. So, you got it. Yeah, you got to be careful. Just it's terrible though, the overreach. The overreach that we have these days, and the way that the state it does not really serve the public interest so much as the interest of a certain select few,
Mhm.
more than anything, frankly. And it's like we hear about so often: the money, military, media, and then mafia. You got the four M's. There's a what that the 3M company. I guess it's interesting. They got the 3M branding. Ever ask yourself what that stands for? Well, it's all taped up too, right? It's all wrapped up.
Mhm.
Money, media, military, the 3M. But the fourth, the missing one there is mafia, of course, which you find any country. They're every country essentially. They have they're all run and perform in the same way with the legs of the stool, I guess, really, the institutions. Then the agencies that service them is what
Yep.
it seems. So it's but that's why for me, in many ways, I'm kind of looking forward. I like to live a good life, continue to live a good life, but yeah, it's not easy navigating these intrepid, you know, not just digital waters, but just life itself. Um, with Naroki talked about digital ID. We're really thinking that that's going to be in the spotlight next week with the news. We're not sure who's coming up here in the feature guest capacity this coming Friday, if in fact anyone. Last week we had Paul David Carpenter, of course. So we encourage everyone to check out that show. It's really interesting because he's like ultra pro Zionist basically when it comes right down to it. I myself not in the least. I'm more pro Semitic. He's anti-Semitic in the sense that I guess he seems to support the genocide in Gaza, which he claimed not to regard as a genocide because Netanyahu and the IDF, acting on Netanyahu's orders, were civil and decent enough to drop little paper leaflets and let them know that they're all about to be killed. And it was so obvious from the start. It was the final solution for the people of Gaza that Netanyahu was pursuing. And it wasn't just military targets he was interested in. He was there to liquidate, the indigenous people, the ancient indigenous people of that region and their bloodline. There's something about the bloodline, I guess, as compared to these fraudulent, the imposters. There's a term I often use: interlopers. I
Yeah,
guess Does that make sense? You've heard that term before. So
I've heard you use it.
Eastern Europe, yeah. So hey, but let's talk a little bit about your show, Cafe Enigma, the one I missed out on, Reincarnation. Let's hear a bit of a breakdown on
We're
that. Born
well,
again.
we're
Yeah.
we're not doing the Cafe Enigma anymore.
Well, okay, but the last show
But
you did,
the reincarnation one is actually pretty good. It's
yeah.
we really broke it down. The thing that I really get a kick out, or I really get into about it, is like the mind and the way that works with the whole thing too. But we were discussing the things about reincarnation when it comes to like ascending. Well, I wanted to do ascension, but we didn't have enough time to
Yeah.
really
What do you
get
mean
into
by
it.
what do you mean by ascension? By the way, we got 3 minutes here to ascend, so let's unpack what you can, and maybe we'll revisit that.
Well, like with the Buddhists and the Hindu, they believe that you're reincarnated because you you get traces of your past life, you know what I mean? And then you come back and you have to either do better to where you can ascend to a higher being, I guess you could say,
Higher
things of that
realm.
nature. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
Eh,
not in the animal realm right now, are we? I mean, we have certain psychological tendencies or imprints that make up our
mhm.
psyche, and even if you look at our DNA, I guess like
Well,
us, cats, dogs, similarity, but we are humans essentially. So
my whole point was the fact that you look at the similarities between the way the brain is uh, put together. Like we have climbing fibers and mossy fibers that are inside of the brain, and they grow upward like a tree.
I'm sorry,
And
what kind of fibers? Mossy fibers
and climbing fibers. Yeah,
climbing. I see.
yeah. And these right here are really similar to like when people talk about the tree of life. Okay, or you take a look at in a lot of the spiritual and religious beliefs how they believe in ladders, lines that
Jacob's
go
ladder.
right. There's just way too many similarities when it comes to that compared to the way our brain is. It's like we've been created to where we are actually in sync with that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Even in the outside world. Um, that's the thing that really catches my attention whenever. That's basically where I was coming at from it. A lot of people believe that you have to separate the physical, or they try to make the physical out to be insignificant, but in reality, it's just as important as what the emotional and the spiritual is. You can't have one two of them. It's all or nothing when it comes to that specific thing. You have to think of spiritual, emotional, and physical, all of it.
You're saying
And that
some people like to emphasize or to disregard the material, or to
right.
emphasize, or one or the other. It's
Yeah,
materialism and versus idealism. All which is
right.
idealism is all things are mind, which ultimately I do believe they are. I was just thinking about this the other day, and really, even the material, it finds itself returning and kind of reabsorbed. It
It's
just
all
to dust,
connected.
dust to dust, ashes to ashes, dust to dust, and right down to every little nanoparticulate. Yeah, yeah. But when we pass away, that we definitely I can't help but use this term, drop the body. Hubbard.
Mhm.
That's a Scientology term. I have no affiliation, nor do I care to with that outfit. But see, the thing is, Hubbard, he kind of conglomerated and kind of got informing his fake his cult of greed. He glommed onto anything like from Crowley, Buddhism, or anything like esoteric. That would fit, I guess, and effectively pre-established traditions and religions, and then incorporate it into his own. Even the business of thetans, which is interesting.
Yeah,
The because we have Sonia knows a little bit about this. She talked about it, but the way our consciousness works and the I should research this a little more. I'm really lazy when it comes to Buddhist psychology, which I think they really have. There's great insight if you look at people like Nagarjuna and others. They really managed to break it down quite effectively. But this in particular, the way that we have the thetans, these little prickly uh demonic sort of entities, I guess you could say, that want to like kind of peck away,
hmm
the seeds of doubt, I guess you could say, or seeds, guilt or shame, or just because ultimately the goal in Buddhism, you probably heard me say it before, is to make friends with ourselves, right? And
yeah,
if you look at yoga, the term yoga, that you probably are aware of this as well. It just means union with God, and so union within ourselves, at one with ourselves, at peace, and then ultimately, it's not so much will we be reborn. It's like we're living proof of it. What are we doing here now in the first place? This
hmm
is a question that George Carlin often pondered and reflected upon. It's like, what the hell why is there anything here at all to begin with, right? So that of course we'll be reincarnated, and the thing is, that's the way the Buddhists look at it. I guess people like uh, David, Paul David Carpenter. It's interesting listening to him, and because I don't know much about the whole more deeper metaphysical, mystical, maybe Kabbalistic influenced or whatever it is, Judeo, spiritual viewpoints, on deeper esoteric level, but he seemed to be wanting to promote, this idea of like maybe hanging on to the world, rather
yeah,
than ultimately end goal in Buddhism is to let go, unless and not come back. You're liberated from the wheel of rebirth. You're gone. That's what happened, I guess, with the Buddha. But unless this is where the newer Buddhism comes into play, the Mahayana, unless you're required as a bodhisattva, how the deal, that's what they tell us, to come back like Christ did and many others. We are all bodhisattvas essentially. We have bodhisattva Buddha nature, even dogs, cats, everything, every sentient being, butterflies, you name it. But and that's what you're talking about, the ascension, the
hmm
ladder. What in the medieval times there was something that they drew to our attention in university as ladder. Oh shit. I don't even know why we're we still have we've overshot the mark here. We should be We should have dropped this call. They'll probably do it here.
But there's only us two, though. Yeah,
Well,
if there's only two people on, it won't cut off.
You're kidding.
Yeah, if it's two people at the same time, that you don't have a time limit. If it's over three people, then it dies out.
So 3 people is okay too?
No, 3 people is bad. That'll give you an hour and then it ends. But if there's only 2 people on, then no, it's not.
Really? I had no idea.
Yeah,
How about that?
you could. That's the only thing that I had an issue with whenever
Teams.
I first heard about Teams. Whenever it first came on, was you can get on and do like interviews for hours at a time, as long as it's just 2 people. But if they have more than 2 people, then it's done. It's over with.
Vinny from Brooklyn, mother of a formerly nonverbal autistic son, hears him speak for the first time. Mother of a formerly nonverbal autistic son. I wonder if they got him on CBD or something like that. Thank you, Vinny, and thank you, Omek. Started watching here over via Beam Stream. Zane Ivy saying that he thinks we basically drop the Cthulhu Sharira at Meat Space Death. Now, I have no idea what that is. Cthulhu, I mean, copy and paste, I guess. Sharira, like a shedding of spiritual skin. Who knows? So, no, you were wrong. You were wrong, Roger. We did start out with 3, so, but that's fine. We'll be back here momentarily, of course. We're going to cut away to commercial break. Red Dragon Herbs and Teas, bringing you guaranteed homegrown health relief. With any order of $25 or more, you immediately receive a 10% discount. All you simply have to do is let Ryan know one or 2 things, either simply Pirate Radio or Pirate Code, and that will effectively help to unlock that that great savings. Meanwhile, over on the CannaSense Cannabis Collective front, 5813 is our referral link. So do take note of that, 5813. We'll be back here in just a flash, folks. Don't touch that computer mouse or radio dial.
Medical cannabis is now legal by telemedicine. Get the medicine you need by getting reviewed for a medical cannabis card. Contactless appointments available at CannaSense.com. For as low as $39, you can get reviewed for a medical cannabis card. That's CannaSense.com for a licensed medical cannabis doctor review. CannaSense.com has all the information you need to get connected with a doctor for a $39 medical cannabis appointment. CannaSense.com. CannaSense is common sense.
Catering exclusively to the Des Moines, Iowa area and beyond, Red Dragon Herbs and Teas is a small, family-owned business dedicated to the creation of only the finest quality artisan herbal tea blends. Drawing upon many of the world's most richly established customs and traditions, Red Dragon Herbs' mission is about more than just getting their products out to the market. They also strive to help educate their customers on the wider benefits, history, and folklore of all their plants. Of course, any seasoned pirate knows when they're fixin' to tango with the Kraken, you best be powered up with at least one of the finest select quality premium items, freely offered via Red Dragon Herbs and Teas wide inventory. Choosing from any of their caffeine-free, headache relief, or rest and relaxation blends, history has proven their products among the best sources of scurvy prevention and vitamin supplementation. Red Dragon Herbs and Teas, bringing you guaranteed homegrown health relief.
Red Dragon Herbs and Teas, bringing you guaranteed homegrown health relief. Welcome, folks. We are back here with the second half of this week's show. Segment number 334 of World Pirate Radio News. I myself, as always, your host and trusted companion of these high, often all too intrepid digital seas, Jaffe Ryder. WPRPN.com is the website you'll want to drop by, take a look at. Sign up is free. All you simply need is a username, password, and email. Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com, our PayPal email address. If you'd like to help us out on that front, always appreciated. Virtual, think of it as virtual coffee, just a tip, of course. We're out here doing a little digital busking. This is one way that you could look at things, obviously. Trying to, stand for freedom of speech, obviously, is one of the main reasons we're here. Work on addressing, discussing the news of the day. This week, of course, the looming potential culling of these 400 beautiful birds whose eggs shout it loud, and far from the highest mountaintops. Their eggs contain powerful antigens that stand to help a lot of people when it comes to fighting things like COVID, providing really a unique, unmatched in many ways, immunity to the sort of viruses weaponized by dark forces, including the likes of Anthony Fauci, now, as it's turned out, Charles Lieber, and all too many others, those working within the ranks of the Chinese Communist Party machine, the other big red machine over in the Asian, this side of the globe, really, doing all they can to cull humanity. So they love to cull, don't they? Which really, it's the word kill and cull. There is a reason those two sound so similar, because they have, I believe, you speak to any language historian, expert, someone who is knowledgeable in the fields of etymology and philology, they will say that yes, there's a reason those two words sound so similar. So, but let's see if we can reconnect now with Roger, maybe even Robert Morningstar potentially here, and who else on top of that? We have no idea. It's always a bit of a crapshoot, obviously. So just have to play it by ear, more or less. Vinny out there via the comment end of things, we're going to hit him up here to see if he's available to join us on air. Potentially may not be the case, but whatever the deal is exactly, we thank you for your support, your patronage, and just the fact that you're out there and have been a friend of the shows now for who knows how many years. It's been quite a while, hasn't it? So yes, indeed. We'll give Yvonne a shout here as well. Roger, let's see now. Okay, we got you back on. That's great. And I'm not sure who else is going to be able to make it. Just have to wait and see if these calls go through. Sometimes there are issues that occur on both on this end via South Korea and
Surprised Sonya's not here.
the recipients. Yes. Well, she's busy sometimes with different domestic duties, and everyone's got their own unique schedule. So here we go. Yes, 60 minutes. Yvonne, are we going to be able to have a bit of a talk with you? Are you going to contribute much? No. He answered and he dropped out. So there we go. Yvonne from Mal-Enfant. You rotten little child, you. I think that's what Mal-Enfant means. You translate it into English. So yeah, there we go. Maybe one of the things I'll do here is try to share the link a few more times via Facebook. Thank you for the support. Geez, we got a lot here. 15, attaboys, I guess, really, over on Facebook with the original story. Don't bury your head in the sand. Speak up before it's too late. SaveOurOstriches.com. That's a big SOS on many fronts, obviously. So, it'd be great to have more people show up to the site, to the location. There are a growing number of politicians who are, speaking out and doing exactly that. So that's really good to see. But the world, people just, so many people just holding their breath, waiting, wondering what the next step is going to be. And it's just so sad, so mind-blowing the way that the country is being mismanaged. Peace, order, and good government. Have you heard me talk about that in the past, Roger? Yeah.
Quite a bit.
So peace, order, and good government is what Canada was based on, the three founding principles. In America, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Although, wasn't it you, in fact, who said that
It was private property.
pursuit of private property?
Yeah, and it was private property first, and then everybody started calling it the pursuit of happiness and stuff like that. But that was
didn't know that.
That's the United States Constitution. That's one of the unique things that we have that no other country has. We value private property. And
well, yeah. I mean, totally anti-communist too. That's the thing. That's exactly what the communist agenda, including likes of Carney, these globalists, the World Economic Forum, the plutocrats, and their likes, that they're out to destroy. They're out to destroy. So, the three bodies doctrine. Let's bring this up here. Yeah, because the antithesis of private property. That's Marx himself stated it. He was quite clear. If there's one thing that what their teachings stand for, it's the complete annihilation of private property. So let's try to bring us into focus a little more. The three bodies doctrine. In Hinduism, the human body composed of three shariras, or bodies. Okay, emanating from Brahman by avidya, ignorance, or nescience. Ignorance is a big thing. If you look at how it is that we're born and why we're born, our grasping, it's like on a very primordial level, the impulsive grasping, reaching out. So, and I guess that has to do with just not being settled or comfortable in our place, resting with God, if you will, or even overcoming, if you can imagine that. So, uh, transcending God. Uh, who knows? It's just, it's totally beyond. It's non-conceptual. Obviously, the highest truth. It has to be non-conceptual. What else could it really be? So, but avijja, ignorance. That's a big one. Yeah, and the chain of becoming. There's a 12. Have you looked into this at all? Maybe not. It's part of the homework that I would need to brush up on. But yeah, the way that we're born out of grasping or ignorance, and then from there, there's all the series. Geez, I used to know the Sanskrit as well too. The chain of becoming. I don't think it says it here. Five koshas, which cover the Atman. This is very the Hindu take on things, of which, of course, Buddhism is a like an outgrowth, sort of reformist. You know what Alan Watts talked about? He said Buddhism. I think he said what it was is it's a stripped down form of Hinduism designed for export. And I thought that, like, that's bloody. He nailed it. Stripped down form of Hinduism designed for export. And just look at the way things have unfolded. And that's exactly it. And to think that it didn't influence Christianity is, I think, well, people just haven't studied or looked too closely at things, because
Well,
it's all part of the Greco-Buddhist milieu.
people have a hard time in the Christian belief to believe that reincarnation isn't the same as resurrection. Now, when you take a look at Jesus rising from the dead, that's reincarnation. No matter how you look at it, that's what that is. Okay, that's ascent. Plain and simple. But you can't say that to a Christian because they'll get all angry at you and start wanting to talk a bunch of crazy stuff. You know what I mean? But
Samupada.
I mean,
Well, okay, run that by me again, because I might actually take exception to that. I might not. I'm not sure if I'm down with what you're saying. The two are,
resurrection. Okay, like
mhm.
Jesus being resurrected. That is reincarnation. That's exactly what that is. I
Mm,
mean, it's
mm,
it,
not no, because he wasn't born of another womb. He was not born of a new womb. It was resurrection. There's a difference. See, to be reincarnated, you'd have to come through. You'd have to be uh, um, conceived in a new womb, right? You have to go out into the
nah,
bardo. Yeah.
that's just archetypes that's being created. Everybody does that. You know what I mean? It's like
Well,
freaking you have
well,
archetypes.
but he wasn't born of a new womb. He died maybe, which I don't think he really was. It was all designed to unfold the way it did. It was like a state dramatic sort of theatrical staging of something that was meant to be the way that it played out. So he had a big family too, and I don't think that he was just a poor lowly carpenter. That I don't
Yeah.
believe at all. His name was not. His name was not. It wasn't Jesus. That's like a Greco. Isn't that a
Yeah.
Greek rendering of his
Yeah.
name? But didn't it mean one who saves?
Jesus.
One who saves.
Jesus.
Is that one who saves? Joshua, correct?
Mhm.
Yeshua? I think it means one who saves. And guess what? What does a bodhisattva do? Exactly that. Same thing. So, and from the Korean tradition, you have two things going on. You have what's known as Chariak and Tariak. So Chariak is through my effort and striving through on my own accord, and then Tariak is through another. So you pray to like a bodhisattva or some celestial being or Jesus or God, and ask for, or an angel, divine intervention and help, to save the ostriches. So, the old saying, God helps those who help themselves, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, Tadiak through my effort, my striving, and Tadiak through the other. So, but I don't know, reincarnation. Well, we have a difference of opinion. Hopefully, we can still be friends. But you've yet to convince me.
It's not really a difference. It's just like when you look at ascent, okay, and you look at reincarnation and you look at resurrection, okay, you've got to think about it like this: like a tree grows, okay, it grows upwards towards the sun, right? Because it's wanting to get that sunlight. It's
Mm-hmm.
ascending upwards towards the sun.
Sun draws it up.
All right, that's ascent. That's ascent, and you can use that metaphorically too. Okay, so when you're talking about being resurrected or reincarnated, you're talking about ascent.
They're different terms.
Even
meaning.
with karma, the whole reason for karma is that you're trying to ascend to another realm. Okay, you're trying to ascend upward. You see, that's the whole purpose of karma, nothing else.
She's that special. You think so? She hasn't been around too much lately. She pops in from time to time, but you think she exists in her own separate world or realm?
She was on last night or the night before.
Mm-hmm. So we need to ascend, is what you're saying, in order to really connect with her.
Well, if you ask her, we've already ascended.
So, okay, but what does karma mean? And I'm looking just for one word, because so many people, they end up giving you like a 20-minute speech on karma, when really it just boils down to one word. Keep it simple. Stupid. No idea.
Karma. Well, first of all, karma is basically
one word.
There isn't no way to make it one word.
Oh, there is.
Karma is you basically, it has to do with what you've done in life.
Close.
What comes around goes around, but what was it? You said action.
There you go. That's the
action.
word. That's all it is. Correct. There you go. Check mark. So we have a winner. So yeah. Oh, there's that Korean pastor that's missing.
Consequences is the thing of it too, though. If when it comes to karma, your karma determines the consequences that you have in your life. So if you're Buddhist or a Hindu, you know what I mean? The consequences of your actions in life is what determines what your next life's going to be.
So. Basically, yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, correct. Yeah, the fruits of our actions. Correct. So, and sometimes it takes some time, like what did John Lennon sing about? Instant karma. That's what was rendered. That's what he got, basically. Unfortunately, receiving end of how many ever bullets were fired, 4 or 5. The instant karma at the hands of Mark David Chapman. Some people not too keen on speaking his name, but he was he was not well, obviously. He I don't know what the deal was. He might have been actually another MK Ultra type victim, essentially. Chapman, shooting Lennon like that and then sitting down and starting to read Catcher in the Rye. And then just a few months later, same thing with John Hinckley. Hinckley had a copy of Catcher in the Rye in his, I think it was the hotel room where he'd been staying. The authorities were able to gain access to after, he shot and attempted to kill Reagan. Hinckley is now free. He's been released, yeah. But a lot of people really wonder if they really wonder and ask themselves if Mark David Chapman will ever be allowed to walk among us again. So just he shot the wrong guy. A lot of people talked about that, saying that he just kind of shot the wrong guy. So yeah, and think about how long we have some Charles Manson slides. Actually, it's not really time for it. Oh, we see Naroki's back too, hanging out patiently. But just to finish before Naroki jumps in here, it's Charles Manson slides that we've added. Karen Pesegnik. So it's difficult surname to pronounce. Yeah, her and her mother essentially overseeing that farm. We should have to fact check that. So, but with the Manson families, this dude here, Charles Tex Watson, he had bad guy. He was the real Manson was the one who was playing with all their heads. Watson was the guy. He was like the soldier. He was just following the commander's what he'd put into his head, and I really think that it had a lot more to do with drugs than anyone realized, and even the fact that Tate could have been, and Polanski, but Tate was involved like with the whole Hollywood scene and the occult side of things as well, secret societies, witchy type covens and so forth. We're seeing Tex Watson tapes here, but sex tapes, home videos. Manson actually talks about this in one of his interviews. He lets kind of look. He was always dropping little clues, cryptic little clues to what his take on things, and he might have known a lot more than what people give him credit for because of his ties, to the underground. Both while he was,
He told a lot of people stuff when he was in prison, though. Like
he did what?
a lot of people that he hung out with in prison while he was serving in prison, he actually told a lot of people the truth about that stuff. I was telling you about it once.
Let me jump in here just to finish off. Was it Patty Hearst, another MK Ultra victim, essentially, the Siboney's the Liberation Army? I think how do you pronounce that? The first part of that group, but anyway, same kind of deal. I don't know. Yeah, we'll talk about that as time goes on here, maybe a little later, or get to whatever talking points sort of organically arise. Naroki, I'm not sure if you finished your rounds, if you're on a bit of taking a bit of break, coffee break, or what have you. I don't think you're a smoker. Definitely.
Had my coffee.
Not allowed to smoke weed on the job. I don't think most security guards know.
Dude, I've been clean and sober for 40 plus years now.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
I mean, I will. And by the way, I'm never going to find this out. Probably never going to find this out myself. I've heard from various artists that claim that if they just light up one doobie, that it unleashes a lot of creativity, but it has to be in controlled amounts. And I have never been able to use any type of a mind-altering substance to control amounts. Once I start, I don't fucking.
Well, you and Roger have something in common then. And let me just say, I'd like to revisit this point. Don't let me forget. And we have a song to play too. Don't let me forget that either. It's an Ostrich song, okay? We're going to maybe end with the Ostrich song and then the outro. but three tokes. One toke over the line, sweet Jesus, one toke over the line. Sitting downtown in a railway station, one toke over the line. Your audio, Naroki, it's coming through. It's not as clean as it was the first time around. I'm not sure what you've done with it, if you're wearing a different headset or what exactly. You might switch things over.
It could also be the reception.
No, I don't think so. It's the exact same setup as what you had before.
Hold on a second. How's that? Maybe I'm holding because I'm holding the phone differently.
Yeah.
Oh, I know what it is. Last time I had it on the charger. I was charging the phone while I was talking to you, and this time I don't. That's the reason why it's different.
Well, so there's a cleaner sound the first time around. Hey, there's a lyric. It's a cleaner sound the first time around.
How's that?
It's not bad, but it's Roger didn't he have a better sound? Wouldn't you say? Well, during the first portion of the show, I thought he did. It was cleaner, but anyways.
Well, it's same phone.
Okay,
I don't know what's going.
Maybe it's maybe my headphones a little. There's no major static or interference. We can hear you, and your levels. Just checking your levels here. They seem to be coming through all right. So, let me just say, going back to Canada as I did in July. First time in 18 years. Do the math there, folks. Connect the dots. That I'm a real lightweight. Like they've got. You might know about this, Naroki. The THC levels. It's like difference between drinking beer and whiskey or Everclear, which is like 100%. Just who knows how that's made, but the THC levels I think was about 12%, 12.5. And I would take three little hits off of that in the morning. And by the way, it did say right on the little can, which was all labeled and had the little, it was all done officially and just wonderful, that, yeah, as a warning, like they do with the cigarettes, this impacts your ability for memory and concentration. So for me, as someone who, it's amazing it takes some people this long to realize these things, but as a performer and someone who, occasional performer, someone who needs to, remember, lyrics, for example, is what I do mostly, busking, and focus and concentrate, that you can't be high. It just, for me, I don't know, like not everybody is a Willie Nelson, or Bob Marley. And some people, it's, take heed. You've been warned. It's just, there's a reason you have, that's the one thing I guess you could say the government got right. Occasionally, even the devil, I think Zane talked about this in the past. Even occasionally, even Satan gets things right. So it speaks the truth. But yeah, that's about it. That's all I had to say, gentlemen. So anything more you see taking place on the peanut gallery end of things? We got to finish up with a song, of course. Go ahead.
Oh, there's a place in Florida also called Clearwater, but there's a place in BC called Clearwater. And again, I probably will never find this out. But apparently, the weed grown in this particular part of BC, incredibly potent. Again, I'm only getting that second and third hand.
Secondhand smoke, secondhand highs, contact stone.
I'm getting people who gotten their weed from this particular part of BC.
Oh yeah.
Columbia.
Oh. Where is that in the Kootenays, Clearwater?
It is actually in South Chilcotin, but it's sort of like on the frontier between the Okanagan and the Chilcotin area.
What about Vernon? Isn't Vernon in that?
Vernon is in the Okanagan Valley.
Well, okay, so then Edgewood is not too far from there. It's about 30 miles or so, but isn't isn't that location, because the Kootenays themselves are basically southeast corner of the
Yeah,
province, right?
they're right in the southeast corner there, right?
Nelson, Slocan Valley. I hitchhiked through there back in the day and drove several times. But good, good, interesting vibes. It was a lot different when I went through the second time, and I hitchhiked in the middle of the winter, if you can believe that. Almost died in a
Yeah,
ditch one night. It was crazy.
I would. If there's, that's probably one of the few places in BC that I would actually consider moving back to. At this point, um, would be that Kootenays area nestled right along the west side of the Rockies there.
Caslow.
A quiet, out of the way, yeah. That would probably be one of the few. I mean, Prince Rupert would also be another. Although I would have to get used to dealing with a lot of, like, I think Seattle gets a lot of rain, man. That got nothing on Prince Rupert.
Oh,
Yeah,
geez. Oh, go. Yeah. What or the Queen Charlottes?
Charlotte's. Well, actually, it's not. It's not called Haida Gwaii, but
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's. I Yeah, the natives, the Tsimshian, which are around Prince Rupert, and the Haida Gwaii, which are out. Well, the Haida, which are now called Haida Gwaii, formerly known as the Charlottes.
Right.
They don't those two tribes don't particularly like each other very much. Because the Haida Gwaii used to be, well, they were like the Vikings almost, right? They would send out longships and they would raid all the way up and down the west coast, going down as far as Baja, apparently, on occasions to raid.
That's wild. There was actually speculated to have been a Viking influence, some contact back in the day, believe it or
Well,
not.
apparently they got in as far as Minnesota, but that's never actually been concluded.
How the hell would you do that?
Well, you could basically get one of those long ships up the river.
Portage, like overland?
The Great Lakes. You can get one of those Viking ships probably all the way.
Oh, I see. You're saying, I thought you were talking about the people of Haida Gwaii. Okay.
Oh, no.
No, I'm talking about the Vikings having, of course, like that's a kind of, there's a lot more to the reality there than what's yet to have been revealed. You know, as time goes on, that's the word apocalypse. We hit on, I've brought this up multiple times now. But just as a reminder, it's an unveiling or a revealing. So, and we're doing that through archaeological digs, mostly, and these ground penetrating radar. Like there's entire documentary shows devoted to that. So, just shifting gears a little bit, and that's a fascinating topic, Naroki. So, thank you.
There's uncovered history or something. There's a guy who was on television for a while who would have explore obscure archaeological issues, and one of them he investigated was the possibility that might got in as far as Minnesota.
Josh, there's Josh somebody now. Then there's that other guy who I think he was a Freemason. We invited onto the show. Al, via Forum Borealis, had him as a guest, but we never heard back from him. So, and we usually just reach out to somebody once, and that's about it. Speaking of which, Mark Devereaux, when's the last that you've been in touch with him?
I haven't spoken to him in about 6 or 8 months.
True Crime, Vancouver, Mark Devereaux.
Yeah, well, it's kind of weird how him and I overlapped so much, but we never actually physically met each other. Like,
oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, no, that's the reason why. Because, like, I mean, his very first show on True Crime Vancouver was about a guy that I knew. I didn't work with him, but I knew of him, and I knew the place that he worked as a bouncer in this one particular club that I used to go into all the time. And I didn't really have that much to do with the guy.
Right.
And what ended up happening is that one day I went there and I just noticed that he hadn't been working there for a few days. So I asked around, and the bouncers were like saying, "Well, he doesn't work here." They didn't want to go into details, but they were all sounding rather glad that he was no longer in. It was the name of the bar that he was a doorman at.
They were happy to see him gone.
Oh, they weren't complaining about the fact that he was gone. It basically, from the very first show that Mark Devereaux, the show that I listened to, it's literally the first thing. If you go to his podcast and you listen to his show, like the very first show he does is about this guy. And
what?
it's
whoa,
like,
whoa, whoa,
yeah,
whoa.
no, I
Hold it. This is Mark's show or somebody else's?
Mark Devereaux's show.
Okay. Well, but in I thought you were saying that Mark worked there as a bouncer.
Yeah, the very first show. If you go to Mark Devereaux's podcast and you listen to the very first show, that he does, is about a guy that I knew when he was working in Banff. And what my story was, I didn't really click with the guy. There was just something off about him, and I just didn't really particularly click with him. But what ended up happening is he just disappeared, he just up and vanished.
No.
Vanished, and I sort of like noticed that he was gone, and I asked some of the other bouncers that were there, and they all seemed rather relieved that he's no longer working with them.
Okay, so this wasn't Mark. This was someone that Mark covered in his first show.
Yeah, this is the person that Mark covered in his very first show.
And what did it turn out? What was the issue? What was going on? What was the problem?
I didn't know. I didn't push, right? Because I mean, honestly, if this particular, I wish I could remember his name. I'd have to go back and look here. Let me just go back and find Spotify here.
Okay, stand by. Action doing or action, says Zane. As far as karma goes, that's correct. We're endlessly creating karma. If you're good at it, I suppose you're burning it up too. You're absolving yourself from the negativity, the foolish actions that we've engaged in, maybe the foolish the words that we've uttered, feeling bad about, geez, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or what have you. But also, and thoughts, which they're a lot more kind of, I wouldn't say slippery, but elusive and intangible. So that's why it's important, I would argue, with meditation. You don't want to get too hung up in the thoughts, because we have a lot of people have some pretty goofy thought cycles. And that's the way that you practice meditation, it's like taking a sword, metaphorically. That's why I often say Christ, he's claimed to have come with a sword. It was sort of, in my mind, almost like Manjushri, who, oh gosh, what is the name here now in Korea? Jijangbosal, I think. Jijangbosal. I've got this cool little, maybe get on camera at some point, I suppose. But yeah, Jijangbosal. I got this thing. They might be interested in hearing about this, but it talks about Padmasambhava on the back of this plate. So it's we picked it up out on the East Coast near Gyeongju. Gyeongju, the former famous capital of the Shilla dynasty, out on the East Coast there, where they have those giant. Bulguksa is located there, famous Buddhist temple location, and giant burial mounds for the kings and so forth. So they call them Mutom, like tomb, tom. Sounds very similar, and I think you would have certain etymologists and people who, language experts, who would notice that similarity quite readily as well. There's others, of course, that'll argue. It's like, well, there's nothing to be seen here. No, So there's a lot of words in Korean, which it's interesting. Things like many, mani, old word. Want, hada,
His name was
old
Craig
word.
Abrams.
Who?
Craig Abrams. was the guy's name.
Spell the first name.
Craig Abrams.
Oh,
was the guy's name.
Craig Abrams. That's a Jewish surname too, right? Kind of.
Yeah, well, I don't know whether he was Jewish or not, but
Abrams, kind of Jewy. Yeah.
The show back in 2023, Who Killed My Friend Craig Abrams? And,
really?
I remember him when he was working in Craig, not Mark. Craig.
So that was Mark's friend?
Mark's friend.
Got killed.
And he was working. Well, yeah, he got murdered. It's one of his shows called Who Killed Craig Abrams on the Dark Minds podcast. August 26, 2023.
Was he the former bouncer?
Well, he was a bouncer when I knew him in Banff.
And you kind of got a weird vibe from the guy, is that right?
Yeah, I didn't really click with him. There just seemed to be something off. And like I said, he was in town and he was in Banff, and then all of a sudden he wasn't. Huh. And when I asked about him, because I mean, again, right, it's like Banff's a small town. I mean, you take away the tourist element and the super crowded streets, Banff is still just a small town with 8,500 people. Like, all of the locals know each other.
Yeah. Are you also aware that Jasper was intentionally burnt down?
Oh, there's definitely some very suspicious.
Do you know? I lay the blame, squarely at the doorstep of a guy named Stefan Gerbeau. He's a government insider. He was working very closely with Castro. Now he's Carney's left-hand man.
He's the minister. He's the minister of culture, and he's the guy who is currently the chief face of Carney's new online hate.
Just an awful person. Just there's something really, speaking of certain things being off with some people, just an awful, but that's why he's, been risen to that position or been put in that position, as far as I can tell. He was
under Trudeau. He was the minister of energy.
And then and then environment. And then you know what he was trying to do with, I think it was culture once again. He was trying to have it so that media would require you would require a license to act as any media outlet or journalist. So, and that's the thing, is like, well, who is a journalist anyways? And what are we talking about exactly when things get to the point where you require a state issued license that says, okay, you qualify?
Well, that was attacked. I don't know whether they were doing this over in Europe, but this was sort of
gross violation.
But in Canada, they were really big because Trudeau brought in that basically what amounts to a bribe. Well, the major networks here are all bought and paid for.
Oh yeah,
and I think he had it in his mind that there was going to be official sources, and then that was when came time to have elections and whatnot. Those official sources would be the only ones that would be allowed into debates and whatnot.
Sure.
Fortunately, Rebel News took them to court and they won, so they were able to actually attend the debates. But I mean, like, the Liberal Party tried to prevent Rebel News True North from actually sending representatives. Electoral.
Yeah. One of the few media outlets that hadn't been bribed or bought off. That's right. So, and we're talking some ridiculous amounts of money. And I got something more to add to that as far as Carney is concerned. Just a moment here, but Roger, I don't know, either did you have something to say, or are you going to mute yourself out because we can hear you?
Well, when you guys were talking about all that stuff, all I kept thinking was, nobody's mentioning the cannibals that are going and eating people in the woods, and they're burning up the forest and everything to drive them back up into the Ukraine.
Who the hell? What are you talking about?
Canada. they're killing ostriches and then they're burning the
Oh, the
forest.
You're
ostrich.
talking about cannibals,
Yeah, cannibals.
like
You
eating?
know,
No, eating people. What are you getting? What the hell?
that's why you got all those fires going on up there,
Well, there's a
man.
lot of arson, of course, and part of the reason for that is because they've got men and equipment that need to be put to work. If you don't have fires, you got all that capital, all these operations that you've invested in millions of dollars, and they're not doing anything.
Well,
There's
one,
time and again, man. I've heard where I grew up stories in BC, and I'm sure beyond, where you have intentionally people going out intentionally lighting fires, and now but it's gotten to the point where it's just so they can promote the whole man-made climate change agenda. It's like, look, climate change. And then did you see, did ever was those fires in southern Quebec, southeast Quebec, where it was being radar coverage surveillance at the time, and simultaneously bing 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 bing, like direct energy weapons were being recorded. You know, bing, 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 bing,
well,
bing, 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 and just the whole part of the province just erupted in flames a couple of years
oh,
ago.
the color, but
Climate
the
change, man, climate change. Go ahead.
Hawaii fire, color blue, which was supposed to, the lasers weren't supposed to work on the color blue. How there was like all of that blue on those fires in Hawaii that didn't catch
Same
fire.
thing, same kind of thing. Yeah, Maui. That's right. You know, and
You
here's
know,
another thing. At Jasper, they could have taken preventative measures to clean up all of the brush. So much of the brush, they could have put people to work. But see, these are not political priorities. You know, put people to work and clean the brush, to dry the underbrush, and so forth. But the priority is to get fires, lit and spreading, so that they can create fear, hysteria, and exert and assert more just total political control. Most Canadians aren't you paying taxes up until about August, and then maybe you got a few months
end
left
of
over.
end of June, beginning of July is
It's
all this
do you
tax.
think do you think it's going to get any better, or is it just going to keep getting
Oh,
worse?
oh, it's going to keep getting
That's
worse.
right. That's right. Well, the way things are going, and that's the communist agenda. That's the trajectory. That's the course that they have laid out for the country, including, and there's a quote here that we got from FDR, that in politics, if something happens, and this is a guy who spent a lot of years, Roosevelt, in politics, if it happens a certain way, it was no accident. It was because it was intended to, it was meant to.
So yeah,
There are no accidents.
having to walk a bit of a tightrope right now because at least still Al basically, like, I mean, if he does anything too authoritarian right now, like Alberta, which is right now it's 50-50 as to whether Alberta stays in Canada or not. If he does anything that really pisses off Alberta too much, like Alberta's gone. And if Alberta leaves, the country will fall apart very, very rapidly.
What about the open borders? Because it's all related. It's not like you can separate open borders from the economy and housing costs and food costs
So,
and fuel and living expenses and real estate. Come on, it's all
uh,
interconnected. And for some public figures, politicians, and the like, who seem to have a vested interest. Media, they're gatekeepers, obviously, and the politicians, just with their pre-scripted talking points and the parameters to the way that they unpack these things. That like, how is it? What you're seeing, is it, as it improve? I don't think it's improving. Like, is it still this wide open? Come on in, no questions. Come on
well,
in.
the immigration situation in Canada is not like people running the border. It's more like, for instance, with all of these immigrants from India, what they do is they come over here on student visas and some of these colleges have, and then once their education is finished, they just don't leave. And and there's also there's also another group that's running a form of, literally a form of indentured servitude, where they have to advertise these jobs on the Canada Job Board, which is why they're so easy to find. But what they do is they advertise, but they don't hire anybody local. What they do is they go overseas to India or wherever, and somebody pays them to work this job, and then they come over to Canada and they work in what amounts to a form of indentured servitude for X number of years before they get full citizenship.
Yeah,
And
it's infuriating. No Canadians are not allowed to. No Canadians need apply. But how does that work? That scam that they're running? I think, did you bring that up last week? Let's hear that one more time. Just the kind of the clincher to the way that the catch is. How do they work that then exactly? That they're left on the hook, as it were.
Yeah, well, they come over and they get the job, but they work the job for a fraction of what they were actually supposed to be getting paid. Like
bait and switch.
Yeah, they're barely getting paid more. They're not even getting paid minimum wage, and they keep them there in that situation for X number of years before they actually qualify for their citizenship. It's not the situation like they have in the U.S. where you have a border wall. It's more of shell companies, and it corrupts individuals setting up businesses. And it's just like the whole there's money involved in it, cheap labor and whatnot. But
what about kickbacks to government agencies so that they're basically looking the other way?
Yeah,
right.
They're bought off. They're paid to look the other way.
Holy shit! And it's just the same. It's just wash, rinse, and repeat, and it's just the cancerous growth. You can imagine just getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more ridiculously obscene. And oh Lord, Lordy, what's
the numbers? That the numbers aren't.
Yeah, I used to be a patriot. I used to be a patriot.
And in terms of a proportion of the population, Canada is letting in way more people percentage-wise than the US is.
And how many of those are Europeans?
Very few. Mostly from a lot. There's a lot of people from Africa, but a lot of them are from India, and it's like a lot of them. And I have encountered a few of them now. A lot of them, they're used to, like, for instance, this because you lived here. There used to be a language requirement to be able to have to come here. Like, you had to be relatively fluent in either French or English, preferably both, especially if you're going to be living in Quebec. And now I run into these immigrants, and like they can barely make themselves understood.
We need to get Sam Cooper. We need to get Sam Cooper on the show. Have you heard of Sam Cooper? Yvonne Malenfant out of Coquitlam, our co-host, commentator friend that we sometimes have on the show here, I think first drew this to our attention. And yeah, have you seen the work of Sam Cooper? Have you looked into what he's done?
I've heard that, but
oh wow. You talk about the Helmsleys. Forget about the Helmsleys. You want a book to read or audiobooks. I'm not sure if you do audiobooks. I know I do. And just do a quick search, YouTube. It's like Sam Cooper audiobook, and there's a number of interviews that he offers. There are a whole host of them. So yeah, man, it's like all the illegal, just as you're talking about with the foreign criminal gangs. And the corruption and immigration and drugs, of course, so on and so forth. And just with the RCMP, what is it with these cops now? How many years has it been? It's been maybe not even, I don't think, 20 years? And suddenly you see cops everywhere. They're allowed to have tattoos.
that as well. I think that's just a general decline in the caliber of
Back in the
candidate.
day, it's like, okay, that's you're an outlaw, you're a real rebel, and also let's not forget, cops. One of the first things that they do when you're taken into a prison is they look you over for tattoos. Why? It's because they often, they communicate the gang affiliation or what have you. I guess with the cops in their case, it would communicate gang affiliation with the police. Police gang
Something
affiliation.
like that. Um, yeah, no. Mark Devereaux's definitely not short of any content for his podcast for sure.
What are you talking about?
In terms of criminality and that type of thing.
Within the ranks of the police ranks, the
Well, not just
corruption.
within Canada itself, right?
Right. Well, like I said, it was the Picton pig farm, and you know that they were partying with the pigs. Not that all cops are bad, of course. There's some great cops. They have a shitty. What a terrible job, though. What to have to enforce these certain laws where you're just
Well,
destroying people's lives. That just leave them alone. Like, what is this nonsense? So, but with the Picton pig farm, that's the last time I heard from him, and that I was actually I was hoping that we'd have you on board as well, and have a little, three-way action regarding that whole business. They were there partying with very high-level prominent people within the Liberal Party as well, too.
oh
And
yeah,
this is some weird
there.
stuff that's going down there.
Yeah, no, there was. I'm of the opinion that Picton was probably assassinated. Um,
He was even rumored to have
also,
been writing his memoirs,
yeah,
allegedly.
well, the other part on it too is that the people, like I said, I actually, I won't say had the misfortune, but I actually got within about 6 feet of Picton at one point.
That's
He
weird.
just Dave, again, not as bad as Craig Abrams, but he had a really, well, you know what I'm talking about. He had a real dark energy about him
Yeah.
that just maybe.
So you're saying Craig Abrams had an even darker vibe than Picton?
No. Craig Abrams wasn't as bad.
Oh, I see.
Craig Abrams, kind of struck something was off about him, and I didn't really want to find out what that was. Robert Picton, if you'd ever got it, I've also talked to some other people in recovery that had the misfortune of being in Picton's presence. Picton had a really creepy, dark. Gotta stop swearing here. Got a dark vibe and energy about him, right? He's just one of those people that you get around him and you just like wanted to get away from him.
I can imagine. Let me just
And
I got to finish up with the comments here, and we're almost out of time. We've got to end with the this ostrich song, which I was really just blown away with. So I hope it's copyright royalty free. Good old protest tune with speaking of, well, just the feeling that it has. It's look at those beautiful birds, man. I cared for llamas in a similar fashion, so that's who they'll be coming for next, these, and the whole thing, even the means that were used were totally fraudulent. um oh gosh, why am I brain dumping now? Carrie Mullis, Dr. Carrie Mullis, Nobel Prize recipient in medicine, saying that the was it PCR, the PCR test, CPR, PCR, it's totally
probably
not to be used for diagnostic reasons, a means of diagnostics. That's not its purpose, or it's what he made it for. It's because you can ramp and amp it up as much as you like. You can find anything within any one if you amp it up far enough. So this is the way that the public is being hoodwinked. That's one of the ways. They're being totally having the wool pulled over their eyes. Good old Freemasonic hoodwinking. Gotta love it. So, action causes effects internally. Samskara, vasana, basically potential future effects or a tendency to particular actions. Yeah, I guess one thing feeds the next, right, Zane? So, recently watched a deal. I'm not sure what that is. Provide us with the link if you could. I'd be interested in seeing it if it's a video or documentary. Claiming Leonard Cohen, had also been an MK Ultra product. Well, we covered that whole business with Ann Diamond a couple months ago, actually. You might want to go back into the archives and check that out. But she really unpacks a lot there, at least her experience and her the time that she spent with him. So, fire on the mountain, laughter in the air, gold in those hills, and it's waiting for me there. Is that a lyric from the Grateful Dead? I think it might be. And lastly, the Gospel of Thomas. Hey, folks, remember, if you bring forth what is within you will save you. If you do not bring forth what is within you will destroy you. For anyone, tell me that is not Taoist wisdom, at its finest. So, for anyone who's read the Tao Te Ching, I'm not sure if the Gospel of Thomas is one of the ancient religious manuscripts they found in the caves of Dun Huang out there in the Silk Roads, but wouldn't be surprised in the least. So, anyways, there we go. Gentlemen, we've only got a few minutes left here, so leave it up to you, really, how you'd like to finish this one off. Let's just, Roger Hansen, sounds like you're taking a bit of a break, unfortunately, with the whole Cafe Enigma
It's
show.
all of it.
That's too bad, man. I really wanted to connect with you and get it straight, like 10 o'clock, 9 in the morning. Like, we got to do something, man. Come on, and then I can actually try to, do what I can to then, actually, the two of us then could kind of hop on over to,
I'm still doing recordings. Okay, it's just
the
I'm not.
rookie show.
This whole live streaming thing is
Mhm.
getting on my nerves.
I
I
see.
just,
I see.
you know what I mean?
Right.
It really is.
Taking
And
orders from other people.
well, no, it's not that.
Oh, I
It's
see.
just like whenever you're doing a live stream, you have to have a schedule and do things accordingly. You know what I mean? Whereas if I do a recording, then I can set up a time, just record it and be done with it. I can edit it out, make it good.
Mm-hmm.
Things like that.
Something we rarely do with the shows that we put out here, the World Pirate Radio News, and the feature end of things
So,
too. Very little, very rarely. There's
so
some.
I'll throw in one thing here before I
Yep.
hang up.
Yeah. 1 minute.
I have officially restart. Well, I mean, I don't know whether I'm going to be doing it like on a weekly basis, but I mean, I did put up another episode here yesterday. It's on Rumble at this point. So yeah, I have started that up again.
I'm sorry. What? Red Pill Nation Hangout or something else?
Oh, Red Pill. There's the Red Pill Nation Hangout, which is more kind of like a newsy type of show.
Yeah.
And the Rookie 5 live stream is me focusing more, doing a live stream that's more like Manosphere content.
Oh yeah.
He
Okay.
gets wild on that one. You start hearing him talk on. He turns into a wild man, starts saying horrible stuff.
Oh yeah.
I just found out something. Those charges that second set of charges that the UK government
Quickly.
On the Tates again, he was never convicted or anything like that, but alleged sexual assault charges that he was wanted for in the UK. Those have just been dropped 12 hours ago.
Oh. Oh,
the
good.
Tates.
Well, that's no surprise, really. That's great. Great that they were. Was that on the accuser's end, or who? How did that?
Well, no. What ended? There's the again because we all know what's going on in Britain right now. It was somebody within the British government that got Tate arrested back in 2023.
Same as Julian Assange, the Swedish government, wasn't it? They're behind that.
Got him in prison on really, really flimsy,
pretext. Yeah.
They basically added a protest of punishment type of situation with him. And again, right, what ended up happening is that, Tate is, he is more or less a part of the manosphere. And because it looked very much like a false act. It probably was a false accusation, right? Some people in the manosphere are like saying, well, no, you don't just want a lawyer, you want a lawyer that specializes in this type of a case. So Tate got a different.
I guess what he's trying to say is Tate got a different lawyer, but we're going to have to maybe get a different VoIP, voice over internet protocol at some point, so we're not endlessly cut off after 1 hour of live streaming. Interesting how these things change over time, and the narrowing of the goalposts essentially is one of the things that we're looking at here. Unfortunately, not as many options, luxuries, freedoms allowed or granted when it comes to, so much that is applicable to social media. So you just do what you can to carry on and make the most of things. That's why we're still here. We do just in the process right now of queuing up this. What we're hoping is a copyright and royalty-free protest song in support of these the 400 ostriches that really are in the government crosshairs at the moment via the little town of Edgewood, British Columbia, somewhere around half an hour or so outside of Vernon, BC. So I think we've got it in place here. Let's give this a shot and see if we can make this happen, pull this one off, to close all the other programs that we have in place at present. Lessen the load on the CPU central processing unit, the burden that it's required to take on board. All right, and what is this doing with that exactly? We're not sure. Oh, there we go. I'm not sure why we lost everything that we've got there. Minimize, and yes, here we go. Stand by.
In the Cooney Hills where the wild winds sing, lived a flock of proud ostriches, hearts on the wing, feathers soft as the sunrise, as bright as the dawn. They danced in the meadows, free and strong. Karen and Katie, with love in their hands, built a home for these creatures on Edgewood's lands. 30 years of care, through sweat and through tears. Now a shadow looms large, born of cold-hearted fear.
Buffy St. Marie.
The slaughter, let these birds live, their hearts beat with freedom, they've so much to give. Healthy and happy, they run in the sun. Don't tear down this family, don't let tyranny run. Oh, government men, with your boots and your guns, back off from this farm, leave these ostriches alone. this Canadian land. Each bird has a name, each soul has a spark. They're not just numbers, they're lights in the dark. Karen's gentle whispers, Katie's tender call. They've nursed every feather, they've loved through it all. But the feds storm the gates with their papers in mind to kill what's alive in the broad daylight. Call off the slaughter, let these birds live. Their hearts beat with freedom, they've so much to give. Healthy and happy, they run in the sun. Don't tear down this family, don't let tyranny run. Oh, government men, with your boots and your guns, back off from this farm, leave these ostriches alone.
What a terrible job those guys have.
They say it's for safety, but their words ring hollow. No tests for the living, just fear they follow. These birds fought the flu, their strength is a sign. Their blood holds a secret that could save humankind. Yet the trucks roll in with their cold, cruel plan. Yellow tape like a noose in a bureaucrat's hand. Katie weeps by the pens, her heart torn apart, while the law stomps the dreams of this family's heart. Call off the slaughter, let these birds live. Their hearts beat with freedom, there's so much to give. Healthy and happy, they run in the sun. Don't tear down this family, don't let tyranny run. Oh, government men, with your boots and your guns, back off from this farm, leave these ostriches alone. People are rising, their voices unite. From the hills to the plains, they'll stand up and fight for the love of these creatures, for the farm's beating soul, for the right to say no when the state takes control. Oh, hear the wind cry through the Kootenay sky. See the ostriches run with the hope in their eyes. This isn't just land, it's a life they've defended. Don't let this cruel order be how the story's ended. Call off the slaughter, let these birds live. Their hearts beat with freedom, there's so much to give. Healthy and happy, they run in the sun. Don't tear down this family, don't let tyranny run. Oh, government men, with your boots and your guns, back off from this farm, leave these ostriches alone. So stand with the farmers, let your voices resound. For the ostriches dancing on this sacred ground. Call off the slaughter, let compassion prevail. Don't let tyranny shadow write this heartbroken tale. Leave them alone, leave them alone in the Kootenay Hills. Let their spirits still roam.
Stand on guard, O Canada. That's right, we stand on guard for thee. Some of us do, others not so much. They stand more on guard for the sake and interest of big pharma, illegal immigration, criminal gangs. You know, they stand on guard for the worst things possible, unfortunately. And that's what they're left to live with. Hopefully, though, we can all intuitively and instinctively learn to, as we are raised and grow, stand on guard for all of the right things, for the right reasons. Let's hope, let's pray, and let's do what we can in order that these birds are not cruelly and unjustly exterminated. It doesn't get more evil than that. Unless, of course, we're looking at the state of Israel and all that Netanyahu has been up to over the last couple of years. Speaking of liquidating, full-blown anti-Semitic genocide of the people of Gaza. So, are we going to be back this Friday with a feature guest? It's anyone's guess. Could be. certainly help in producing more content if we were to pick up a little more support along the way. So do keep that in mind. Pirate One Radio at protonmail.com is our PayPal email address. Also handy if you have any show suggestions or guest ideas. We got pirate merchandise available, courtesy mostly via Galactic Fire, also Teespring and TeePublic. So drop by, take a look at the show description end of things. See what we have available via said links. And sad news via one of our, as you can see if you're following the slideshow here, YouTube guitar instructors having recently lost his son. Under what circumstances exactly? He really wasn't at the time of his posting that particular video prepared to get into. So, but it was just something that I guess he thought that he should share with his audience members. And yeah, one can only imagine, unless you've had to experience it, go through it yourself, such as people, including Laura Lee Potvin, who recently lost her son just this in last year or so, which I believe was due to a kill shot side effects, essentially. But the bottom line is we're all here to go, folks, just passing through. And we'll be passing through here again at some point, meeting up with you, whether this Friday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 11 on the East Coast, or not. Still up in the air. Thanks to everyone who dropped by this week. Of course, do check out WPRPN.com. Stay in contact with the flagship here, the Robin Hood. It has been christened. Hope everyone enjoys the balance what remains here of this week. On behalf of Captain Long John Sinclair and all the rest of the crew down in Skullport Harbor, I'm your host as always, show's Chief Communications Officer Jaffe Ryder, reminding you that until we meet again, be these high, often all too intrepid digital seas. Keep your ear to the ground and eyes to the sky. Steady as she goes.